And thanks for joining One TV Network News at 7. I am Esther Chimizi. First, the headlines. EFCC arrests 4 suspected oil thieves in Rivers State. INEC rolls out conditions for submission of election candidates lists. Court orders Buhari to defend suit on alleged lopsided appointments. Pope Francis' trip to Africa postponed because of new problem. On vandalism, the Economic and Financial Crime Commission's EFCC Port Harcourt Zonal Command has announced the arrest of 4 suspected oil thieves, namely Abdul Algar Sahlihu Ogande, Ismailia Isaka, Ibrahim Isaka, and Iyasu Usman. The 4 were arrested in the Imbiama axis of River State along 2 DAF trucks with registration numbers MKD 781ZN and VDY 398XA, loaded with products suspected to be illegally refined automated gas oil, AGO. The EFCC spokesman, Wilson Uwu-Jaring, said in a statement that the suspects will be charged to court as soon as investigation is completed. On fraudulent practices. In a related development, a federal high court sitting in Port Harcourt, River State, has convicted and sentenced one Obu Gabriel Ebibo to 1 year imprisonment for impersonation and obtaining money by false pretense. He was convicted on Wednesday, June 8, 2022, after pleading guilty to 2 count charges preferred against him upon being arraigned by the Port Harcourt Zonal Command of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. In view of his plea, Prosecution Counsel F.O. Amama prayed the court to convict and sentence the defendant accordingly. Counsel to the defendant B.J. Geoffrey, however, urged the court to temper justice with mercy, stressing that he is a first-time offender who does not have previous criminal records. The presiding judge, Justice E.A. Obile, convicted and sentenced the defendants to 1 year imprisonment with an option of fine of 500,000 naira payable into the consolidated revenue accounts of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The judge also ordered that the iPhone X mobile phone recovered from the convicts be forfeited to the government. On the 2023 general elections, with the conclusion of presidential nomination conventions by several political parties in the country, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on Thursday rolled out conditions for the submission of presidential, governorship, national and state assemblies candidates to the commission. The commission, which said it was expecting 1,500 candidates to be nominated by each of the 18 political parties for the 2023 general elections, also pledged that all eligible Nigerians must be registered as prospective voters ahead of the elections. This is coming after the federal government promised to secure voters during the governorship election in Ekiti State on June 18, even as the Inspector General of Police, Usman Akali Baba, also hinted that the Nigerian police will deploy 17,374 of his men for the governorship election. Still on the general elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has requested for the support of the Nigerian Air Force for airlifts of electoral materials and personnel in preparation for the upcoming elections. The chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, made a request when he paid a courtesy visit to the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Oladayo Amao, at the headquarters of the Nigerian Air Force, Abuja, on Thursday. A statement from the spokesman of the NAF Commander Edward Gabwet said Yakubu also sought NAF's assistance in handling the delivery of outstanding election materials for the governorship elections holding in Ekiti and Osun states in June and July 2022 respectively. According to INEC's chairman, its visit basically aimed at exploring ways of ensuring effective collaborative efforts with other stakeholders to address issues related to aspects of poor electoral logistics management, of which the NAF has a critical role to play. He noted that the law empowers the Commission to seek the support of the security agencies and especially the armed forces in delivering materials for elections and the protection of election officials. Responding, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Oladayo Amao, assured the INEC chairman of the readiness of the NAF to provide transport aircraft to ensure prompt movement of electoral materials during the 2023 general elections. A former secretary to the government of the Federation, Babashir Lawal, has advised the All Progressives Congress APC and not to pick a Muslim as running mate to its presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, who is also a Muslim. Lawal, who issued the warning while speaking with journalists on Thursday, pointed out that Nigerians are still conscious of ethno-religious factors in politics, noting that Tinubu would have been running mate to the President Muhammadu Buhari when the latter became the candidate of the APC in 2014, but for the need to avoid a Muslim ticket. He buttressed the importance of running a united country without friction in the society, a country where everybody goes about their business in a peaceful environment. Recall that Tinubu, a former governor of Lagos State and national leader of the APC, emerged as the presidential flag bearer of the ruling party on Wednesday. A non-governmental organization and election observer specialist, Yaga Africa, has warned the three leading political parties contesting the June 18 governorship poll in Ekiti State not to engage in vote buying and allow the will of the electorate to prevail. Yaga made this known in Ado Ekiti on Thursday at a press conference organized to sensitize the populace on the need to resist apathy and vote buying in the election among other issues. The director of program Yaga Africa, Cynthia Mbamalu, who addressed the pressmen, said the All Progressive Congress, the People's Democratic Party, and the Social Democratic Party were the three suspected political parties with tendencies to allegedly induce the voters out of the 16 parties in the race. Yaga Africa also appealed to Ekiti State's electorate to troop out en masse to display their civic responsibilities and vote for candidates of their choice in the June 18 governorship poll. The body also advised the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to correct the perceived lopsidedness in the spread of votes across units. fearing that this could trigger apathy in the impending electoral battle when voters are finding it difficult to vote or queue for long. On the Ekiti governorship, with just 9 days before the gubernatorial election in Ekiti State, the Nigerian police force has disclosed intention to deploy 17,374 personnel to maintain law and order in the states. The Inspector General of Police, Akale Baba, made this disclosure on Thursday, shortly after the National Security Council meeting presided over the President, Muhammadu Buhari. In a related matter, the Inspector General of Police told newsmen that security agencies were still making efforts to free passengers abducted at the Kaduna-Abuja train attack. He said security agents were being careful not to swoop on the hideouts of the terrorists because of the implications of hurting the victims. On the prelate of the Methodist Church adoption, the IG said no arrests have been made, but efforts are on to apprehend them through the ransom paid and those who receive the ransom. You are watching the news on One TV Network. The news returns after this break. You're welcome. A federal high court sitting in Abuja on Thursday issued a final order to President Muhammadu Buhari, the Attorney General of the Federation, and the Federal Character Commission to defend the suit instituted against them on alleged lopsided appointments in the Federal Capital Territory. Justice Iyang Edenekwo gave the order after the refusal of the three defendants to file the defense in the suit filed against them by an Abuja-based human rights activist, Maxwell Opara. During Thursday's hearing, only the Minister of the FCT, Muhammad Bello, was represented by her legal practitioner, Udom Ibanem, while Buhari, AGF, and FCC were not in court and not represented by any legal practitioner, despite being served with hearing notice. At the proceedings, counsel of the plaintiff, Chukwuma Ozogu, drew the attention of the court to the persistent refusal of the three defendants to respond to the originating summons issued and served on them since December last year. He thereafter sought permission from the courts to present the plaintiff case against them. However, Justice Ekwo held that the three defendants must file the defense, while pointing out the persistent refusal and neglect of the three defendants to react to issues raised against them since last year. The judge then ruled that they should be giving them one more opportunity to come up with the defense. Military authorities say that scores of suspected members of the Islamic State of West Africa (ISWAP) terrorist group have been neutralized by the Nigerian military after they blocked the Maiduguri-Damaturu road, wreaking havoc on commuters on Thursday. It took massive air support from the Nigerian Air Force to neutralize the terrorists who fled the scene, where they took siege of Lawan Mainari village, about 30 kilometers from Minok. The Rapid Response Squad source said that 3 gun trucks were recovered from a location at about 20 kilometers away from the scene of incidents after the terrorists tried to escape on citing backup troop advance. Local sources said that about 5 abducted commuters were later released by the insurgents after a hot chase by the combined team of the Air Force and the troops on the ground. The victims were said to have been abducted because they could not escape like some National Youth Service Corps members coming in from Damaturu who escaped into the savannah on citing the criminals. On the Kaduna train abduction, from Kaduna State Council reports that relatives of the abducted Abuja-Kaduna train passengers have dismissed a false report on social media about the release of the passengers. The denial is contained in a statement issued on Thursday in Kaduna by leaders of the relatives of AK9 Group, Dr. Abdul Fatai Jimo and Dr. Baba Muhammad. The statement said, the news circulating on the social media on the purported release of the AK Abuja-Kaduna train abducted passengers is totally false, and the general public should please disregard it. Recall that the passengers were abducted on March 28 when bandits attacked the train close to Kaduna, and 8 passengers were killed by the bandits and many others abducted. In Owo, Governor of Ondo State, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, has advised chairmen of the state's 18 local government councils to establish community security guards, often known as vigilantes, in their respective council areas. Akeredolu made the remarks while hosting the state's chairman of local government councils who had gone to pay him a condolence visit at Government House in Alagbaka, Akure, following yet to be identified gunmen's attack on St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo on Sunday. The governor said establishing community security guards will improve security at the grassroots level. He added that the Ondo State Security Network Agency, also known as Amoteku Corps, will assist in training the vigilante operatives for effective security in their respective domains. An Ondo State High Court has sentenced 3 persons to death for killing Mrs. Funke Olakunrin, the daughter of the leader of Afenifere, a pan-Yoruba socio-political organization, by Reuben Fasoranti. The convicts Mohammed Shahu, Mazaje Lawa, and Adamu, who were also accused of killing a hunter in the forest, were found guilty of all the charges brought against them. The trial judge, Justice William Rotimi Olamide, in his verdict sentenced them to death by hanging or firing squad on charges bordering on conspiracy to kill, murder, kidnapping, and armed robbery. Meanwhile, the fourth suspect, Awalu Abubakar, who was accused of aiding and abetting, was discharged by the judge. Justice Olamide, who commiserated with the victim's family, urged the government to urgently do something about the growing insecurity situation in the country, which he said had led to many paying the supreme price. Recall that on July 12, 2019, the 58-year-old Olakunrin was headed to Akure, Ondo State from Lagos when she was attacked and shot by the armed herdsmen on the Benin-Shagamu Expressway. After months of tracking and investigation, the killers were arrested on April 6, 2020 by men of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police Force. Now in the Lagos mob, tension was high on Thursday when an angry mob burnt over 30 motorcycles in Jakande Estate, Isheri Road, Lagos State, after a commercial motorcycle rider crushed a man to death. The commercial motorcycle rider, popularly called Okada, was said to be riding opposite traffic when he rammed into the victim, who was standing by the roadside at First Junction bus stop, and the victim died due to the impact of the collision. Soon afterwards, youths, angered by the incident, protested against the victim's death, pounding on the Okada rider, and was on the verge of lynching him when some policemen rescued him. The protesters were said to have also seized motorcycles from other riders who rode in the vicinity of the incident during the demonstration and later burnt the motorcycles. You are watching the news on One TV Network. Still ahead. Pope Francis' trip to Africa postponed because of new problem. EFCC arrests 4 suspected oil thieves in Rivers. INEC rolls out conditions for submissions of election candidates. Court orders Buhari others to defend suits on alleged lopsided appointments. In business, data provided by the National Bureau of Statistics indicates that urea has replaced sesame seeds as Nigeria's biggest non-oil export products in the first quarter of 2022. According to the statistical agency, urea ranked the 3rd highest of Nigeria's exports with a total of 2.93% share of total exports for the first quarter of 2022, a sharp contrast compared to the corresponding period last year when sesame seeds accounted for the highest chunk of Nigeria's non-oil exports. The cost of Nigeria's exportation of urea stood at 208.39 billion naira in the first 3 months of 2022 compared to 16.77 billion naira in the first 3 months of 2021. Raw materials exports rose by 504.7% in the first quarter of 2022 to 259.48 billion naira from 42.95 billion naira in the first quarter of 2021. During the quarter, urea, whether or not in aqueous solution, was exported to Brazil at a value of 63.11 billion naira. FBN Quest, an investment banking and asset management business of FBN Holdings PLC, said the increase of urea exports can be linked in the startup of operations at the Dangote fertilizer facility following commencement of export operations by the company to the US, India, Brazil, amongst others. Still in business, Nigerians traded at least 77.75 billion naira, that is $185 million worth of Bitcoin in the first 3 months of 2022, despite the Central Bank of Nigeria's restrictions on cryptocurrency transactions in the country. This is a 5.71% increase from the 73.54 billion naira worth of Bitcoin that was traded in the corresponding period of 2021, according to data made available to our correspondent by Paxful, one of the major peer-to-peer cryptocurrency platforms in the nation. Trade from Nigeria accounted for 25.87% of the total 300.48 billion naira, that is $715 million worth of Bitcoin that was traded on the platform in the quarter under review. Global trade on the platform showed an 8.33% increase from the 277.377 billion naira, that's 660 million, that was traded on it in the corresponding period of 2021. According to Paxful, Nigeria was its largest trading country in 2021 with 16,000 daily trades in the period under review. The market cap of Bitcoin dropped by $36.90 billion from $902.10 billion as of January 1st, 2022 to $865.20 billion as of March 31st, 2022. In agriculture, still on business, we have news that farmers in Nigeria are looking elsewhere for the soil nutrients as prices of NPK, a fertilizer blend mostly used by them, jumped 250% owing to Russia-Ukraine war. Most small-scale farmers say they are mixing poultry waste, ash, food waste, and cow dung with fertilizers in order to manage the cost inputs on their farm produce. In education, the National Universities Commission, NUC, has been commended by the Higher Education Observatory for Africa for ongoing reforms in the Nigerian university system, which is aimed at producing quality graduates that will be globally competitive. The organization said the Executive Secretary of NUC, Professor Abubakar Rashid, has led a process that has produced a new curriculum for the Nigerian university system that will be modeled for other African countries. In a statement by a board member of HEOFA, Dr. Fred Awa, the organization said, Nigeria's efforts at developing a new core curriculum minimum academic standards, CCMAS, is a giant step in the march to producing 21st century graduates who will respond effectively to the developmental needs of Nigeria and the agents for achieving Africa's Agenda 2063 and the United Nations UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. It said further, the unique features of the 17 disciplines of the CCMAS are indicative that graduates of Nigerian universities who will benefit from the new curriculum will be impressively entrepreneurial, steeped in knowledge and skills to make them labor market ready, and imbued with character for exemplary leadership in the public and private sectors of the economy. The group said that the NUC is providing itself to be a leader in Africa in blazing the reform trail and setting in motion serial mechanisms for improving good governance, quality, and relevance. In our foreign scene, the much talked about visit to the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, and South Sudan by Pope Francis has been postponed according to information from the Vatican. The visit planned to hold between July 2nd and July 7th was postponed because of Pope Francis' new pain, the Vatican announced on Friday. According to the director of the Holy See Press Office, Matteo Bruni, the Holy Father accepted the request of his doctors and in order not to compromise the results of the new therapies still on the way is forced to postpone his trip to a later date to be determined. The unexpected announcement comes as preparation were in full swing, with the Vatican itself having unveiled the detailed programs for the 6-day trip during which the pontiff was due to visit Kinshasa, Goma, and Juba. The statement did not mention the trip to Canada, scheduled for 24 to 30th July, during which the Pope is expected to renew his apology for decades of abuse in residential schools for indigenous people. Following the insistence of South Africa's public prosecutor advocate Busisiwe Mqwebane to investigate President Cyril Ramaphosa for allegedly breaching the Executive Code of Ethics relating to alleged criminal activities at his farm, the president was suspended from office. President Ramaphosa ordered that the suspension takes effect from Thursday, June 9, 2022. South Africa's constitution provided that the president may suspend the public protector or any member of a Chapter 9 institution at any time after the start of proceedings by a committee of the National Assembly for their removal. Last week, former State Security Agency Director General Arthur Fraser formally laid criminal charges at the Rosebank Police Station in Johannesburg, accusing Ramaphosa of concealing an incident where $4 million was stolen. Fraser wrote in a statement circulated on social media that he had laid a charge of defeating the ends of justice and kidnapping suspects who were allegedly interrogated. Ramaphosa admitted that there was a robbery at his farm, but dismissed claims that he had done anything wrong. Now in sports, French league champion Paris Saint-Germain are close to reaching an agreement for Zinedine Zidane to replace Mauricio Pochettino as coach. According to Europe 1, an agreement in principle has been reached between the club and 49-year-old Zidane for the former Real Madrid boss to join ahead of the new season. Pochettino has a year left on his contract and led the Qatari-backed side to the Ligue 1 title last term, but they were knocked out of the Champions League knockout stages. The outfit's hierarchy have publicly stated their desire to win the competition, with Zidane having guided the Spanish Giants to the title 3 seasons in a row. In Madrid, the 1998 World Cup winner with France also lifted La Liga as well as the Copa del Rey twice. And that will be all for now. Before we go, another look at the major stories. EFCC has arrested 4 suspected oil thieves in Rivers. INEC has rolled out conditions for submission for election candidates lists. Court orders Buhari to defend suits on alleged lopsided appointments. Pope Francis' trip to Africa postponed because of new problem. Thanks for joining us. I am Esther Chimezie.